All right, what's happening, everybody? We are going live here, and today we are going to talk about 5 things that we tend to criticize ourselves about. Self criticism is a big deal, and why that leads to really self sabotaging ourselves. I've worked with so many people over the years, and I'll tell you, it's something that a lot of people face. Something that a lot of people go through. I've gone through it myself, and many times I still go through it. And I think one of the biggest things that's really important to figuring out how to deal with some of the self criticism that we tend to put on ourselves is learning to recognize it. So what I'm going to do is share with you 5 things that we tend to do when we self criticize. And one of the things to understanding is that self criticism tends to build low self esteem, and the more we're critical of ourselves, the worse it is for us when it comes to showing up in the marketplace, especially for business owners. But the first thing that I want to talk about is negative self-talk. And negative self-talk is the thing where we tend to, like, if we're faced with something and we come up against something that maybe we're not 100% sure how to make it happen. We might start saying, well, I'm not really good at this, or this isn't me, or this isn't what I know to do. And the thing is, sometimes that negative self-talk is really us kind of beating ourselves up a lot of times, when I guess we're not confident in our ability. And sometimes, there are areas of our lives where maybe we do need to work on. But that's not necessarily a negative thing. And a lot of times, the negative self talk, we tend to beat ourselves up over the things that we can't do. And this can happen a myriad of ways. But I know for me, there have been times where I'll be working on something, and, like, you have that thought creep into your head where you're like, oh, I'm so dumb. I always screw this up. And those are some of the things that, you know, when it comes to negative self talk, we say to ourselves. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it. Okay. So negative self talk is definitely a big thing. Understand that you're not perfect, understand that you're human, understand the process most of all. When we have that negative self talk, we have to understand that sometimes we just might not know. We might not have a good knowledge of what it is that we're actually attempting to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't make you dumb. That doesn't make you stupid. That doesn't make you bad because you have shortcomings. We all have shortcomings. We all have failures that we deal with. But your failures don't define who you are. Failures are literally just a stepping stone to reaching a new level. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. So the next one that we tend to self-criticize, so number 2, that we tend to self-criticize ourselves is, believe it or not, this is a hidden one, but perfectionism is actually a self-sabotaging thing. So perfectionism is kind of hidden under the idea, well, I just want it to be good. I want it to be great. And while that is important, like, you don't want to show up to something and put a half-ass effort into it. You do want to put some effort into what you're doing, and you want to do it as best as you know how. But the problem is with perfectionism, sometimes we show up to something, and in order for us to even consider putting it out there, it's got to be perfect in every single way. And that is just something that a lot of people fall into. I can't even begin to tell you how many times, like, I'll talk with my students or other people, especially in business, and they'll openly admit that, hey, I'm a perfectionist. Well, on some level, we all deal with that. But you also have to remember that nothing is ever going to be perfect. Like, no matter how good or how bad, it doesn't matter, like, how much effort, something will never be perfect. Now, a lot of times we use perfectionism as a reason to procrastinate ultimately. So when it comes down to that, perfectionism is definitely one of the ways that we tend to self-criticize. So the next one, and this is a big one, and I really, really believe that this is one that holds people back, is comparing ourselves to others. This is another way that we self-sabotage. And so, in other words, like if you're out there and you're doing something online, we might look at a big leader online or a big influencer, and we might look at everything that they're doing and we think, "Oh man, I could never be like them. I could never do what they do." And so what we do is we start saying in our heads all these negative things. All these things start coming up and we start justifying why we could never do what they do because man, they're just so good at what they do. And the downfall of that, and this is something that I think is inherently wrong with social media in general, is that a lot of times social media shows you what we call the highlight reel. So a lot of times we see people on social media, we see pictures of them, we see their life, and we think, oh, they got such a perfect life. But the truth is that they have problems behind the scenes just like you. Do you go on social media and share every single problem that you're ever faced with? Of course you don't. So they don't either. A lot of times the only things you see on social media are the things people want you to see, the positive aspects of their life, which isn't bad, but we also have to put it into perspective and realize that hey, just because it looks the way it does doesn't mean it is. Okay. So you don't want to get into comparing yourself with other people because you have unique traits, unique things about you that, make you who you are. They're what make you unique. It's really one of the greatest benefits that you have is that you are a unique person with unique traits and you can go out there and connect with people on a level that only you can. And that is a big, big thing to understand. So comparing yourselves to other people, comparing ourselves to other people is not a good thing to do. It's not wise. It's not something that you should do. Look at somebody, learn from them, maybe see what they do, get some ideas, and then look to put it in your own way. Look to, really add your spice to it, so to speak. Okay. So let's move on to number 4. And this is a big one when it comes to um, self-sabotage is a lot of times we will, and I do this, believe me, I've done this and I still fight myself in many times when I do this is to disregard the accomplishments that we've made. So I'll give you an example. Like I've worked with people before and where, they maybe get their very first commission that they ever earned online. And what'll happen is they get that and they're like, oh, it was only $20. And I'm like, only $20. Only $20. You know how many people have never made $20? I'll give you another example. I was working with a client several years ago, and I remember this client, and I got on with him, and one of the first things I asked him was, how big is your email list? Have you been building a list? Yes. How big is it? And he said, it's only like 10,000 people. And I was like, my jaw dropped. I'm like, what do you mean only 10,000 people? And so my immediate reaction was like, you got to be kidding me. Like that's a huge accomplishment. You've got a whole bunch of people that want you to communicate with them. That is not just 10,000 people. That's a 6-figure income literally waiting right there in front of you. And so I really had to help him to see that, you've only generated 10,000 leads. Like that's a major accomplishment that most people never reach. So he was disregarding his accomplishments and it was affecting how he was showing up in his business. And so if you go out there and you generate your very first lead that you've ever generated, if you, you go out there and you make your first commission in your online business, that is a huge accomplishment you should celebrate. And so don't ever disregard accomplishments, no matter how small they are, no matter, what you perceive them to be, it is a big deal. So maybe it's not at the level of, some big influencer online yet, but that doesn't matter. Don't disregard it. They were just like you at one point. They had to start. So, we don't want to disregard our accomplishments. Very, very important. And the final one is this is very important. And I want to preface this because I think this is very important. Number 5 is emotional thinking. Okay. Using thinking based on emotion. Now, I want to talk about this because I think this is important. And it's not to say we should disregard emotions. But a lot of people think according to emotions, like their emotions direct the way they think. And I just don't believe that that is a good thing. Now, it's not to say like emotions are bad. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying though is that sometimes you're going to have emotions. You might be angry. You might be sad. You might be down. You might be, not happy about something. Or you might be excited or whatever. But what happens is when we make decisions, and I've learned this about myself, when I make decisions based on an overly heightened emotional state, I usually make the wrong choice. so, so what I know is that about myself, when my emotions are high on something, I need to step back for a moment and I need to ask myself, I need to calm myself so that I can think rationally about the situation. Because I can tell you this, there have been many times in my life where I was mad about something and I wrote something that I was going to send to somebody and I decided to give it one day to cool off where I wasn't so upset. And then the next day I was like, man, I'm so glad I didn't send that. I mean, if we could all, I'm sure we can all relate to that at some point or in one way or another. One of the other things is like social media. When I'm on social media, I can't begin to tell you how many times I've typed out things to respond to comments and then I've stopped writing the comment to get rid of it. Like I like started to type and then I'm like, no, like I'm making a comment based on an overly reacted emotion. And that's not a good thing. So we sabotage ourselves by over emotional thinking. Like, and I'm not saying emotions are bad. God gave them to us for a reason. But, making decisions in an overly heightened emotional state, you really want to be careful with that because that is definitely one way that we can, number one, criticize ourselves, but also one of the ways that we can self-sabotage ourselves. And one of the reasons I'm bringing up all of these things because I find it really a lot of the reasons why people don't do videos in their life or, for their business online is because of a lot of these things. They start having the negative self-talk. Oh, I can't do this. What if somebody says something bad? What if somebody says something I don't like? This or that. And so that negative self-talk starts coming in, which is kind of based on fear. And then we start thinking, well, I gotta be perfect. Like every video I create is gotta be perfect. It's gotta be something that, that I'm always, that I want to make sure I say the right thing. And that is definitely not what you want to get dragged into, especially when you're doing videos, is getting into that idea of perfectionism. Because every video does not have to be perfect. So many people put production value over content value. And that is not it. Like coming on a live like this and just sharing and talking and adding a few, nuggets of wisdom to people or sharing a few things that people can find valuable, that's an important part of what it is that we do. So perfectionism is really an excuse to cover for the fear that we're having of going out there and making an impact. So perfectionism, when it comes to videos, you really want to keep that in mind. Okay. You don't need to be perfect. Comparing yourselves to others, so easy. I see on here, John Melton, he just commented, love you, John. Great to see you here, man. But somebody might watch John Melton and his wife and they get on video and they're awesome. You know what I mean? And it's very easy to look at them and go, oh my gosh, they're so good. I could never get on, video and be as good as them. And the truth of this is like, it's funny. I just saw a video of John and Nadia pop up in my feed, like, and it was from like 7 years ago. And it's kind of funny. Like, I'm sure the very first videos they ever created, they weren't that great. Everybody has to start somewhere. But the truth is like we see somebody who's already gone down the path of creating content, creating videos. They've been out there for a while. They've been doing this much longer. And then we immediately compare the best of them to the newness or the worst of ourselves. You see what I'm saying? So like it's like we're in that beginning spot and then we think, "Oh, well, they're so good. I could never be that way." And that stinks because they didn't get to where they are because of just not doing videos, or they weren't there because they tried to be perfect every single time. You see what I mean? So this comparison that we get in is really a self-sabotage, and it really is, one of those things that can hurt you in a huge way. So the other thing, when it comes to creating videos, disregarding our own accomplishments. Like, well, I've only created 5 videos. Good on you. Like, that's awesome. That's awesome that you created 5 videos. So go out and do more. Or, the 5 videos I created, I only generated like 2 leads. I can't believe I'm not making more. And, we start to like run all these things through our head and it's like, wait, you created 5 videos and you got 2 leads. That's huge. Like there's people that have created 5 videos and got no leads. So don't disregard it. Like, I don't know where it is. I used to have it. One of the things about my wife got me, and I don't know what I did with it, but I used to have this little button on my desk, and it was a little cha-ching button. So every time I got a commission on something, you hit this little cha-ching button. And the whole goal of it was you're going to push it no matter what the commission is. If it's $3, cha-ching. And that is like a sign to say, hey, thank you, God. Thank you for the blessing of that commission. No matter how small, how insignificant it was, it's just a matter of being thankful for that. So disregarding your accomplishments, especially when you start talking about videos, is really one of those things that you should not do. You should not disregard your accomplishments, no matter how tiny they are. It's an accomplishment, and that's a big deal. And so these are things that I think can really help you when it comes to your videos. If you have not registered for the Fearless Video Challenge yet, go to fearlessvideochallenge.com. You can register there. We start a week from today, Monday, the February 20th at noon. It's so awesome. We have over 2,000 people registered right now. So it's going to be awesome. Going to be very exciting. You want to go over there and get registered and check it out. All right. But anyway, I wanted to come on here today and share these things with you. You'll certainly be seeing more of me. I'll be doing a lot more live videos to get on and share with you some of the things that are happening and going on. So I sure appreciate you. Love you. Make sure you comment and share this video or tag somebody if you think they'll benefit from the Fearless Video Challenge. All right. We'll see you soon. Get registered at fearlessvideochallenge.com, and we'll see you next Monday.